According to Grocery Dive, the National Retail Federation on Friday said that it has edited a retail crime report released in April and has withdrawn a claim regarding organized retail crime, also known as ORC, if you are in the know. A new report no longer includes any estimate of organized retail crime's overall impact in dollar terms, nor the big assertion that at the time, nearly half of all shrink is attributable to organized retail crime. According to its most recent report on shrink, about 29% is lost because employees steal merchandise or money, and another 34% is lost to process errors or for unknown or other reasons. The remaining 36% is from external theft, of which organized retail crime is a subset. Chris, that's a pretty major clarification here on something that's been pounding the headlines for the last year or two, especially. What are your thoughts on this retraction?
Yeah, I mean, it is really interesting. I mean, I can remember when that report came out in April, 50% of shrink is due to organized retail crime. Everyone was like, whoa, okay, that's a big number. But, I think I'm actually really glad that NRF has restated the report because I think there is a lot more going on here. I actually read the restated organized crime report as well as NRF's 2023 security survey cover to cover last night.
Ooh, sounds like a sexy Tuesday night, Chris.
That's definitely one way to put it. Sexy crime stories with Chris Walton.
Hey,
sexy retail crime stories.
Signify does crimes and cocktails. I mean,
that should be our new podcast. Sexy crime stories with retail crime stories with Chris Walton.
God.
No one would listen to that. All right. But anyway, here were the key statistics to me. So the 2023 security survey study found that the average shrink rate in the fiscal year of 2022 increased 1.6%, which was up from 1.4% in fiscal 2021. So when you take that as a percentage of sales, that increase in shrink represents about $112 billion in losses. So pretty substantial across the industry. But the question then becomes, what's causing it?
You're right.
The last part of what you read in the headline was what's most interesting to me, because the statistics of where the shrink comes from, 34% are from process errors. That is what I wanted to understand longitudinally, but I couldn't find any mention or study of that metric across a time horizon in either of those two reports. It may be out there, but I couldn't find it in those two reports. And the reason I say that is because inventory accuracy was already atrocious in retail heading into the pandemic. It was 60 to 70% at best. That's what all the studies say, compared to a warehouse, which is in the high to mid 90s. Then you think the pandemic happens, you throw shipping from store, you have more curbside pickup, more self-checkout. How has data inaccuracy not gotten worse over the last few years? And I would argue substantially worse, because there's so many more touch points in different ways through the average retail operations day now. Customers, employees, they're having to move products much more than they ever had before. So, I find it a more likely story to believe than I find that actually impact to be a more likely story to believe than everyone across the nation is suddenly stealing more. Theft may be impacting it a little bit, but what's changed, societally, that we're now all stealing more? Maybe we are, I don't know, but I think we have to dig into that number more longitudinally to understand this here.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I was actually kind of happy to see this because I felt like, oh, thank God.
Me too.
Okay, I thought I was going crazy. I'm like, what is happening to humanity? I mean, we have heard from retailers that we talked to that they are seeing increases in different types of theft and different ways of doing things with all of the new like self-checkout machines, curbside pickup. Like, we know that there are some bad actors out there. There is some like legitimate theft happening. But I really think that this puts the responsibility clearly now back on those retailers. Like, you have to be making investments now in areas to mitigate some of the processing errors that you're talking about. You have to start investing in better inventory accuracy. You have to be like really working to refine the processes, because now your shareholders are aware. It's not something like the weather anymore, where you can say like, the weather impacted this. It's not theft. It's not organized retail crime being 50% of the problem. Like, we can't do anything about it. It's an act of God. We can't help like people, society being worse. Like, Now there's some onus that's back on the retailers, I think, to really make smart investments to get this number to a place that is feasible to do business again. And I think that's what hopefully will come out of this.
Right. And that's a good point. The last thing I'd say on that too, Ann, is like with every headline you read, you always have to look at what's the motivation for the headline. Right. And
yep.
And I hate to say it, but the retail industry is motivated to have crime or theft be the answer because it makes them look better. If they were to come out and say our inventory accuracy is atrocious and we don't have a handle on it, that's not going to play well from a PR perspective. So
no.
But so until we need to understand that specifically, though, to get a clearer picture of what's really going on here. And I call on the industry, I think you do too, to start tracking that more overtly.